What's up, old souls? This is Reed from Everyman Vintage, and we'll get back to that demo here in just 1 second. But for the time being, we need to talk Univox real quick. Now, most of you know Univox is a Japanese-built budget line brand from the 60s and 70s, and you're not wrong in that assessment. But I'm here to say, as far as the vintage market goes, they are some of the best value you can get for your money, and there's just an enormous amount of potential there. So first up, I was playing a 1970-something Univox Precisely bass. I have no idea when it was actually built in the 70s. Those of you who are Univox gurus can maybe help me date the thing. But it's just a very traditional Fender Precision bass copy, probably made in the Matsumoto factory, famous for making lots of other lawsuit type of instruments. This particular one's got an alder body, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. It is just so similar to the traditional Fender design, and I would say they were probably making better basses than Fender was in the 1970s, and this is perhaps more faithful to the more classic Fender designs than even Fender was at that particular time in its history. I've got this one strung up with Labella Deep Talk in flats, and it just does that thing. And just to show you how similar in design they are to the traditional Fender Precisions, this one had probably at some point in its life fallen on the E string tuner and cracked the headstock, like many Precision basses have had happen to them. Whoever had this before me glued that sucker together, and they slapped a Fender branded E string tuner on there that looks nearly identical to all the Univox branded tuners that are on there already. And so it just is a very similar instrument, but is an extremely high quality instrument that feels and sounds great. Now, as far as amplifiers go, I don't have a lot of experience with later Univox stuff. Everything you heard in this demo is 1964 or before. Now, there's just not a lot of info out there about them. So first up, I played what I'm calling a U302 amplifier. It is a 2 6L6 power tube amp through a 15-inch Gibson Alnico speaker. It's got 2 channels, and it just sounds great. I'm guessing somewhere around 35 watts. That cabinet kills me with that super like mid-century Jetson styling to it. It's amazing. And I had another one of those that was actually like the 12-inch speaker version, a slightly smaller cabinet, but a man can only have so many amplifiers, and so I sold that to a dear friend and bandmate who now plays through it, and it sounds great as well. It's through a 12-inch Gibson Alnico speaker. Both of those 2 amplifiers are from 1961, by the way, and that one has 6973 power tubes and sounded great as well. So those really early Univox amps sound awesome. If you replace the oil and paper caps that lots of them have, they're really nicely laid out. They are neatly built, all hand wired, really great quality stuff. RCA power tubes. Both of those amps had West Germany branded tubes. I'm not exactly sure what they are. I'm not an expert on that. I just know the things don't cost a lot of money and they sound fabulous. The other Univox amp that I played the lead track through was a Univox U102 amplifier, and I do know that's the model designation because I have a really ratty schematic that's still in the back of the amplifier. It's got this killer like blue sparkle Tolex and this like 2 like rows of piping all the way around it. It just looks really, really great. That one has 6 AQ5 power tubes, which are similar, I suppose, to a 6V6 electronically. There's a lot of mixed opinions on the internet about those things. I'm not one of those people that really cares about that kind of thing. I wish people would just shut up and listen. And if you would, you'd realize how absolutely amazing those power tubes can sound. All original 1964 RCA tubes throughout. It just sounds killer, and it's very reliable. I had basic servicing done to it probably 4 or 5 years ago, and with regularity I crank that thing and it sounds awesome every single time. And so also another really, really great amplifier. Now I do have one more amp made by Univox that I did not use here because it's currently not functional. It's the only one I've had that's not been serviced, but it has 2 channels, also 6973 power tubes, and it has reverb in it as well. I really need to get that sucker up and running because when I first got it, it did work and it sounds really great as well. It's very similar to that U102 in its tonal characteristics. Now, last thing before I leave you, if you know anything about these, if you know more about these than I do, please comment on this video and let me know more about it. Ask me a question, message me something. I would love to know more about Univox amps because, like I said, most of these things can be had had for a song, especially in comparison to things like Fender and Gibson amps, and man, they sound absolutely killer. So enough of that, let's get back to the demo and enjoy the great tones produced by this old Univox gear. Until next time, I'm Reed Jones for Everyman Vintage. I'll see you.